So the difference between position groups and the goals that we set, first and foremost, every single athlete does the same pre-practice flex. We have static stretching, we have dynamic mobility exercises, and then we have actual sprinting built into the flex. And the biggest thing that we want is for every single athlete to hit at least 90% twice a week throughout the entirety of spring. That mitigates any soft tissue injuries that may occur, and it also gives us a pre-practice proper warm-up to increase our core body temperature to make sure that once we get onto the practice field, everything is set, ready to go. In addition to that, our short area quickness goals, whether that be high decelerations, low decelerations, and anything in between, we're monitoring that per position group, and we mitigate that with our position coaches to maybe this athlete needs to do more indie, maybe this athlete needs to do more group work, and maybe we need to pull guys from indie and pull guys from group work to make sure that we're not doing too much, but then at the same time, through previous interviews, make sure that we're not doing what's less of or what's required for our athletes to maintain their level of fitness. Workload capacity and training is imperative for spring football for a lot of reasons, but spring football, especially here, is over a month essentially a month time, and we have 15 total practices that the NCAA allows us to have. So how intense are certain practices going to be, and how intense are certain workouts going to be? So we use that to mitigate obviously proper periodization, we're going to do a progressive overload, and then we're going to peel back, so sort of like a deload, and we make sure that the intensities match the proper theme of the practice, and then vice versa in the weight room. So I'm not going to rob Peter to pay Paul. If we're going hard on the practice field, we're going to go a little bit easier in the weight room, and vice versa. So when we peel back on the practice field, we're going to crank it up in the weight room, and it's just made this whole process so easy, because as soon as we're done, pull it from the cloud, look at it, see what's going on, and then we can make our proper adjustments if needs so. For the spring, a lot of our benchmarks that we set are essentially, they're going to be what our ground level is going to be for fall camp and for the in season when we're actually in the competitive play. We use these practices to get a great base load to see where we need to go when we're actually practicing 5 days per week, 6 days per week, and exactly how and what we can do to adjust our practice schedules to make sure when we actually get into the competitive season, it actually applies to the actual metric that we're looking at and the actual metrics that we're monitoring. So spring is a great indicator of how the fall is going to go, especially with the new NCAA roster limits and stuff. How can we effectively do what we need to do with less people and still get the same amount of work and have the same standard, and obviously the same type of have more wins in the win column than losses? And obviously it's tricky, but that's why we have Connects on to help us navigate these uncharted waters. Once you've hit a certain threshold of fatigue, it is extremely hard due to the amount of volume and stress that a collegiate athlete goes through on a daily basis to get back to just baseline zero. And then if you try, once you've gotten back to baseline, you've got to somehow figure out how to become the better player on a daily basis. And so the fatiguing metrics are some of the most important ones. Obviously performance metrics are great, but if we don't undulate and take care of the athlete prior and do our prior preparation that promotes the perfect performance, then we'll have a very different type of product on the field. And so the coaching staff, my coaching staff, the position coaches, and our athletic training staff always meet. We meet daily to make sure that we have the proper periodization that will allow our athletes to perform at their best. we, along with Coach Des and all the other position coaches, put together a practice plan to make sure that we're still peaking on Saturdays. And we take all this data from practice, and obviously we're looking at it. Us as coaches are mitigating certain things to the position coaches, but when it comes to an overall setting, obviously our head coach, Coach Desmo, has the final say in what we do and how we do it, and he is very intentional in his practice plans, and he wants to know exactly what these guys are doing and how they're doing it and how well are we performing, obviously Saturday to Saturday. So as we get into the later half of the season, we have tiers. We got tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 type practices. And within those practices, we have a black flag practice, which is our most intense practice. We have a red format practice, which is a lot of individual work and working on skill development in both positional and offensive and defensive scenarios. And then we have our white practice, which is a high intense practice in the sense of player load per minute and mechanical load per minute, but the duration is a lot shorter. So we look at all these types of practices and the types of tiers that we have, and Coach Des put together a phenomenal practice schedule that allowed us to have a certain type of practice and a walkthrough in the middle of the season, in the middle of the week, to make sure that we're having active recovery and we're getting more mental reps in the season, so we're taking off lower body stress, and that allows us on Saturdays to just fire on all cylinders, because at a certain point, if you're looking at data, fatigue is what kills most teams, especially late in the season. And we're trying to be in the top 8.9%, and we're trying to make it to the college football playoff every year. So what are we going to do to make sure that not only are we making it into the playoff, but we're going to exceed and be at our best when our best is needed? And so we're looking at the data, and we're making sure that we're tiering proper practices at the proper time to win every game and get that competitive edge. No matter, this is a game of inches, so whatever we can do to make sure that we're 1 inch ahead of our opponents, that's what we're going to do.